Welcome back to the channel, everyone. You're watching Outdoors with Craig DZ. Today, doing a little content around t-shirts. It can either save you a bunch of money or even become your new side hustle. Stay tuned for more. So I'm just showing you, here's the front of my t-shirts from last year. They're all cracked and faded, and these were about $25 a pop through local company near me. You know, again, you can order them online, Vistaprint, all these other companies, and they'll be even more expensive. I ordered, I want to say at least 30, so it wasn't like a small, you know, like 6 shirts. Most places won't do anything less than like a dozen. But this company, you know, they also did my sweatshirts, which came out amazing. These, not so much. These were like laser printed, so they actually get print by a computer on it, and they just did not hold up very well. I mean, after probably 4 or 5 washes, they already started cracking and peeling. I mean, with the laser color, you're able to kind of fade colors in and out and print like almost real pictures onto your shirts. However, they just don't hold up very well to washing, and for more like service work shirts, I thought I'd do something a little easier, something that will hold up. And so for that, I'm going to use vinyl. So if you watched one of my other videos about vinyl cutting for signage, right, to letter up my dumpsters, same exact machine we're going to use today. It's just different vinyl. All right, so this is a program called Vinyl Masters that came with my cutting software. So you can see this is the back of my shirt, and you create an image, and again, you kind of have to be a little tech savvy, especially if you're going to do this as a side hustle, because you'll have to be able to design this stuff yourself. But so I had one image. I changed part of it to black, part of it to red or orange, and the cutter is able to actually cut it by color. So right now I'm actually going to print, this is actually going to be in white, the shirts are orange, and then the black is black, the cow spots, and then my website and a couple other things. The only difference between printing this stuff for your dumpsters or vehicles, signage, etc., versus t-shirts, it's just different vinyl, and you cut it mirrored. So the image that I just showed you is already mirrored, so it looks funny, everything's backwards, but that's because when you put it on the shirt, you know, you kind of lay it down reverse, so when you press it on with a heat press, it will look, you know, correct on the shirt. So the only other piece of equipment, so mine is the US cutter, like 36 inch or 32 inch cutter, little overkill, but I mean, you could do this again with one of the home Carios or Crickets, and you know, all those little home ones. And same with the heat press, I'll show you in a little bit. I mean, you don't need that. It's $150, $200 for one, but it does a way better job. It's faster than, say, like the little iron-on press that's like 50, 60 bucks. That, I mean, if you're doing one, 2, 3 shirts for yourself, you know, you could cheap out. I don't think they get as hot, and therefore the shirts won't last as long. But the vinyl in general, I mean, I have shirts that I've made like 2 years ago that still look brand new. The vinyl really holds up well, unlike this stuff that kind of peels and cracks as you wash it. That stuff, for the most part, as long as you buy quality vinyl, should last, you know, definitely 50, 60 washes at least. Alright, so here's an updated layout of the shirts. So I printed a bunch, about 9 in total. So here's the white, here is the black, 2 separate colors. We'll stack them together, and then my wife's been helping me weed, which is basically just pulling off all the excess until you end up with these designs. So we will take our white onto our shirt. I usually start on the front seam that you can see down here and try and get it as close to that as possible. So normally I'll just kind of eyeball it to start out with. This is a double XL. So I have it lined up. It's a little cocked one side, but I actually have a small ruler. I usually use centimeters, so we're just 15.5 on that side, and we'll look at this side, we're 14.5. So we could actually move over 1/4 inch. So I'm gonna put my ruler where I want it. Pull this back up. Now this time I'm gonna focus on getting it square. So that's looks pretty good. So I'll remeasure. A little short than 15 in here. Yeah, pretty much 15. So that should be dead center. You can also pick up the shirt and kind of hold it by the top here. I'll actually do that here on camera and see how it looks for center and level. All right, so now I'm back down in the office. So here's the heat press. I have this set at 380 degrees and for 12 seconds. Temperature depends on your vinyl. So this is scissor or scissor, or whatever you pronounce it, heat transfer vinyl. So there's my design, and the neck cuff, I try and get it off of this board, because when you press it on, the heat will actually cause it to kind of like leave a little mark where it creases. So let me just set this back up here. So if you're doing one color, you would be okay and get away with this plastic. It's not gonna burn or melt. I think if you left it closed for 2-3 minutes it would, but for 12 seconds it's not. But since we're doing multiple layers, I like to use, this is Teflon paper, and I'll just put that over it for now too, just as an added layer. But so we'll push it down. This has the automatic timer built into it, so it's counting down. And again, it's not rocket science here. 12, the longer you press it, the better it's going to adhere to the shirt. Kind of melt into those fibers and really adhere. So this is also a hot peel. So as soon as it's done, you peel it. You have to check with your vinyl. Some of them can be like cold peel, so you're supposed to let it cool down. Mine, this is hot peel. And so there you have it. There's the first design. So now we will get our black design. And it's also important to notice any little pieces of vinyl that you weed or pull off. Like if it gets stuck to this, when you put it on this shirt and heat it up, it's going to adhere and stick to the shirt. So like if you forget to take the center of the A out and you press it down, the A is stuck in there permanent. Good luck trying to get it out. Same with like a little extra piece of white if it was somehow included into the design. So when you're overlaying mine, you'll see the Dezembo.com piece kind of lines up right underneath the phone number, so I can use that as a starting point. And then for me, I can also use it overhangs or lines up to the bottom letters pretty close. So I have multiple spots, here, the gap here, as far as if it's center, if I have to tweak it left to right, but it gives you a good idea or a good spot on how to line this up. If you had maybe a simpler design, or maybe something that wasn't centered or didn't fit, and I'll show you the final product here in a second, but they do make what's called they do make what's called registration marks, and they're kind of like these, like little crosshairs that you can line up and that way you get it exactly where you wanted it in the design. You just have to make sure that you take them off when you line up the design, otherwise they will imprint into your shirt and then be stuck there. So now we need the Teflon paper, because if you'll notice, and my plate also has Teflon paper on it, so there's like multiple layers of protection here. So I could press this down and more than likely nothing would happen, but like the lettering down here is actually exposed. Everything else is pretty much covered, maybe a little bit on this side. But some plates do not have Teflon and they're just regular metal plates, so when you press them down, it's going to touch this vinyl and potentially melt it, cause it to stick to the actual metal of your heat press. So the Teflon is just kind of like that added layer. And we'll press it down again for another 12 seconds. Theoretically, the first press you could have done like 5-6 seconds, just enough to get it to stick to the shirt. You could peel it off, and then this second press would kind of make sure everything adheres together. So we'll take this off and we'll peel the black. You might be, let's see, hold this up. So you might be saying, all right, you're all set. So now here is, see if I can get this on the camera. Here is my design, you know, my logo, the cow print like my dumpsters, my website, Let's Talk Trash, Hauling and Junk Removal. You know, 2 different colors. The orange, you know, again, is part of my logo, but I want it high vis. When you're on the streets, you can stick out. And now that, you know, it's no longer winter, and today it's 80, you know, all the rest of this week's going to be 80. It's nice to have some t-shirts. So the final step is to do the front. Flip the shirt around. And now, right, you want your logo left shoulder, so it's going to be your right facing. And again, try and get it as straight as possible. So here I have my logo. I showed you earlier kind of how they print reverse. So you kind of want to do 4 fingers down from the collar and then 4 fingers over. So it would be, you know, kind of like, yeah, like right there. Again, it's not rocket science. You know, it's a little bit of trial and error. And again, based off of the shirt size, it changes, because, so this is an XL. You know, I think my, or double XL, my XLs on the back were like 12 inches to center it. You know, the XL was almost, you know, 14 3/4. So it's same with, you know, same with the front. I mean, you could kind of maybe snudge it over, you know, more than 4 fingers. And again, comes how big your hand are, you know, all kinds of different, there's all kinds of different variables, but that's the method that I use. So again, we put it on here, I get the collar off so I don't get that imprint. Same with the sleeves, you know, I make sure it's pretty much just a shirt. And again, we press it for 12 more seconds. And once this is done, we will have a finished product. So, I mean, you can see I'm trying to talk through it, but I mean, you got, if you're doing two, like a 2-color design, you got at least, and there we go. There's the front done. So that's a finished shirt. And the clicking you hear too, if you're wondering, is the machine coming up to temperature, turning off, and then as it cools, it turns back on again to maintain that 380 degree Fahrenheit temperature. But yeah, this is, you know, final product. The other thing I didn't show, so like you can usually kind of stretch them out a little bit after you press them, just while the vinyl is you know, warm, just to get it, the design to stretch out a little bit, and it'll be a little more comfortable. The other thing you usually, and I didn't show it, but I did do it, you'll usually want to press, depending on the material, right? So this is like a dry blend, they call it. So it's a cotton mixture, cotton poly mixture, or polyester, yeah, 50-50 blend. But you'll also, cotton can hold in moisture, so you'll also want to like press the shirt first for a few seconds just to kind of release any of the moisture, because if it is damp, obviously the vinyl's not going to adhere as well. All right, YouTube, I appreciate everybody tuning in. This was kind of a walk through how to make t-shirts. So for me, I mean, I've made or will make almost 24 of these shirts. So again, my cost gonna be about $5, so maybe a little over like 120, 130 bucks total. To get these shirts again out somewhere else was like 25, the ones that I'm wearing now, and these after a year of use are basically garbage. The vinyl will definitely outlast those, and if you're on a strict budget or you're trying to save money, it's definitely a way to go. But as a side hustle, it's decent money, right? You can't go wrong, depending on what you're looking to do for a little side hustle, side money. If you have use Facebook or somewhere to advertise whatever type of shirt you're gonna sell, it could be worth it for you. I mean, in about an hour's time, like I said, depending on the design, I mean, you could go with something very basic. It could just be, my logo or some text or something, and you might be able to bang those out, a shirt every 5 minutes. The more advanced design, it might take you 10 minutes, 15 minutes a shirt. So, really you're only cranking out 4 a shirt, but like I said, I'm selling these for 15, and so they cost me about $5 to make. So even if I make 4 an hour, that's $40 an hour that I'm making, right? So you could see, if you do a simpler design, I mean, you could make $50, $60 an hour, fairly easy on the side. The equipment, again, heat press $200, and the vinyl cutter upstairs, I think was $350. So all in all, with some tools, you're probably around $600. And that cutter's pretty big. You could start out with something a little smaller. That's probably $250, $300, and cut some costs there as well. But there's definitely money to be made. Like I said, I did this before for a little while. However, I just didn't have the time, and after a couple larger orders that were like 30, 40 shirts, and it took me a couple nights of doing it to make 150, 200 bucks. I was like, meh, this isn't worth it compared to like the dumpsters, right, where I might spend maybe 45 minutes an hour and I'll make $150, $200, right? So, and all I'm doing is driving. I'm not doing tedious picking out little things and then centering it, and then obviously you're dealing with customers. Oh, my shirt, it's not center, or my this isn't right, that's not right, blah blah blah. So I mean, there's negative things with it, but if you're just doing it for yourself, for your family, it's a great way to save money. And the machine, the press, I mean, they will last a long time. So like this year I'm making these shirts, maybe next year I change the color, maybe I change the design, maybe midway through the summer, right, 4th of July, I make up a special American flag shirt, and I wear that for a week. But for $5 and maybe 10-15 minutes of my time, it's worth it to be able to do that type of things. And like as I showed in other videos, being able to letter up and vinyl up your cans, your truck, equipment, trailers, etc., all by yourself, just buying the vinyl and printing it out is huge for me. There's time involved, but obviously there's a big cost savings there as well. So if you haven't already, smash that subscribe button to stay up to date on future content. I appreciate everybody's support. We're closing in on 1,000 subscribers, and I thank everyone that's tuning in to help me get there. And I will catch you on the next one.